Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program, and up next are tonight's top stories. Algeria is in mourning after Wadi al-Harraj bus crash. President Tebboune declares a national day of mourning. Army General Shingriha visits the injured, and messages of solidarity are flooding in. Next, in Gaza, famine is taking more lives. Zionist forces opened fire on crowds waiting for aid, while Algeria and Egypt stood firm against Zionist expansionist plans. Also coming up in Libya, municipal elections go ahead despite hurdles. Algeria and Egypt still pushing for a lasting deal to safeguard the country's unity. And later on, US-Russia ties show signs of thaw in Alaska, but the Ukraine deadlock drags on. Zelensky heads to Washington, a trilateral summit is being floated, and Europe vows more pressure on Moscow. The details are straight ahead. Welcome back. We began tonight with the tragedy in Wadi al-Harraj. The victims of the bus crash were laid to rest Saturday in cemeteries across Algiers and Bouira. Families, officials, and large crowds came together in grief. Prime Minister Nadir al-Arbawi and senior government figures paid their respects as the nation marked a day of mourning declared by President Abdelmajid Tebboune. The President of the Republic offered condolences, prayed for the victims, and wished the injured a swift recovery, with flags flying at half-mast across the country. In the same context, the crash, which claimed 18 lives and left many others injured, has prompted swift action. President Abdelmajid Tebboune ordered that all buses over 30 years old be pulled off of the roads within 6 months. Transport authorities have given operators a grace period to replace their aging fleets. On a similar note, Army General Said Shingriha, who also serves as Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, visited the victims on Saturday. Joined by Health Minister Abdelhaq Saihi, he checked on the injured at Zmirli Hospital in Al-Harraj, the military hospital in Ain Najan Mustafa Basha Hospital, according to the Defense Ministry. Authorities have launched an investigation into Wednesday's fatal bus crash in Wadi al-Harraj, which killed 18 people and injured more than 20 others. Interior Minister Ibrahim Marad confirmed the probe during a visit to the crash site on Friday, telling State TV the findings will be made public once complete. The passenger bus veered off the road in eastern Algiers in one of the country's worst traffic disasters in recent years. President Abdelmajid Tebboune on Saturday received condolences from Tunisian President Kais Saied after the Wadi al-Harraj bus crash that killed 18 people and injured many others. In a phone call, Saied expressed Tunisia's solidarity with Algeria. Similar messages came from Egypt and Palestine. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Hati found his Algerian counterpart Ahmed Attaf, while Palestine's Foreign Ministry reaffirmed its permanent support for Algeria. The Speaker of the Arab Parliament, Mohammed bin Ahmed Yamahi, also extended condolences to Algeria's leadership and people. Turning to Gaza now, 2 Palestinian siblings with disabilities, 16-year-old Mahmoud Ad-Dabba and his 25-year-old sister Hanan, died Friday evening at Khan Yunis al-Nasr Medical Complex. Doctors confirmed they succumbed to severe malnutrition as famine worsens under the ongoing conflict. The Gaza Health Ministry says 11 more people have died from hunger in the past 24 hours, bringing the toll to 251 since the siege began, including 108 children. In another development, at least 12 Palestinians were killed and dozens more wounded Friday as occupation forces opened fire near 8 distribution centers across Gaza Strip. In the north, Shifa Hospital received 9 dead and 14 injured after shelling hit crowds waiting for food near Beit Lahia. Further south, Nasr Medical Complex reported 3 killed and 2 wounded near a US-backed aid center in Rafah. The Gaza Health Ministry says 29 people searching for food were killed in the past 24 hours alone, bringing the toll from starvation-related attacks to 1,924 since the siege began, with over 14,000 injured. Meanwhile, at least 24 Palestinians, mostly women and children, were killed in Zionist airstrikes on Gaza early Saturday. In the central Strip, 6 members of one family, including 4 children, died when their home in a Burij camp was bombed, while another victim later succumbed to earlier wounds. In the north, 5 people were killed in Jabalia and 6 more, including a woman, in strikes on tents sheltering displaced families in Zaytun, Sheikh Ajlin, and Tufah. A fisherman was also killed by naval fire off Gaza's coast. And in the south, a couple and their child were killed in Al-Qarara, while 3 others, including a child, were killed in Rafah as well.
We woke up last night to the sound of a powerful strike and discovered the remains of our neighbor Youssef Motasem al-Batta, who was martyred along with his wife and their 2.5-month-old daughter, as well as other civilians. What had they done? The Zionist occupation had informed us that the area was safe.
Similarly, a Zionist airstrike has struck a school sheltering displaced families in Gaza Strip, leaving several dead and injured. Survivors described scenes of devastation with women and children among the casualties. The school was one of many civilian facilities turned into makeshift shelters amid the ongoing Zionist genocidal war.
Schools are supposed to be a safe place, but unfortunately, with the occupation, there are no safe places anymore. And there is no difference between the elderly or between a man and a woman. We were playing in the square, children were playing, women were sitting, we were having fun and everything was fine, until the strike targeted the place, hitting everyone, children and women. There were a lot of wounded people lying on the ground. That's what happened. They hit us without any justification, without any resistance or anything.
The Israeli occupation is tightening its starvation campaign against Gaza civilians, especially children, as the international warnings mount over the deepening humanitarian crisis under siege. Zafar Jani has the full story.
The Gaza Strip mourns the loss of 2 more children, Mohammed al-Daba and his sister Hanan, both with special needs, passed away after a long battle with disability and extreme malnutrition that weakened their fragile bodies. They now lie at rest beside their mother and their martyred siblings.
Yahya, Hanan's brother, was martyred. Then his sister Malak was killed. His brother died 3 months ago, and their mother was also martyred as a result of the Zionist forces' attack. And today, I was shocked by Yahya's death, and Hanan breathed her last.
The story is not unique. Ubaid al-Abad, another child from Gaza, is also suffering from severe malnutrition, his condition already complicated by a disability and injuries from Zionist bombings is now critical. Doctors say he urgently needs to travel abroad for medical treatment, otherwise his fate may be the same as his sisters, who died of hunger.
His condition is critical. He has a dislocation and a fracture in the pelvis. He needs surgery because the injury has severely affected him. He can't sit, and the bone is about to come out through his leg. He suffers from malnutrition and has lost a lot of weight. Before he weighed about 19 kilos, and now he's around 12. I can't do anything for my son. My God, I want him to reach his mother, who is in Egypt. She knows what he needs to eat.
هي بتعرف كل إيش بده أكل.
Every day, 112 children in Gaza are diagnosed with acute malnutrition. International organizations warn the crisis is worsening rapidly, urging the immediate opening of border crossings to allow humanitarian aid to enter. But as the Zionist blockade continues, famine tightens its grip, described by many as a systematic plan of extermination.
In response, Hamas condemned these honest massacres in Gaza's city's Zaytun neighborhood, describing them as part of a systematic plan of destruction. The movement said Saturday the ongoing attacks on Zaytun and nearby areas are aimed at wiping out Gaza and all means of life there.
For nearly a week, the criminal Zionist enemy has been carrying out continuous attacks on the eastern and southern neighborhoods of Gaza City, particularly in its Zaytun neighborhood, as part of a brutal war of extermination and a criminal plan aimed at destroying the Gaza Strip and all forms of life within it. The crimes committed by Netanyahu's terrorist government in Gaza are being carried out before the entire world with premeditation and open declaration. We affirm that these crimes could not have continued for more than 22 months without the green light granted by the U.S. administration to the war criminal Netanyahu.
Algeria and Egypt have strongly rejected the Zionist entity's expansionist ambitions in the region, stressing that peace depends on ending the genocidal war against Palestinians. In a statement Saturday, Algerian Foreign Ministry said Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and his Egyptian counterpart agreed that stability hinges on halting Israel's war of extermination and its colonial agenda. They also called for urgent steps toward establishing an independent Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with Al-Quds as its capital. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam said Saturday that the only state has the authority to decide on war and peace. Speaking to Al-Sharq Al-Awsat, he pushed back on Hezbollah's stance over weapons, stressing that no group outside the state has the right to bear arms. Salam added that exclusive state control of weapons is key to draw in investments and rebuilding Lebanon.
No party or political group is authorized to bear arms. This is a decision that was affirmed during the previous government and remains a firm position of ours today. The state alone must have the authority to decide on matters of war and peace. Without security and stability, Lebanon cannot recover. Reconstruction efforts and foreign investments depend on people feeling safe, and that safety requires that only the state holds weapons.
To Africa now, Libya's second round of municipal council elections wrapped up smoothly with no major security incidents reported. Polling stations across 26 municipalities closed on time at 6 p.m. local time, according to election officials. The vote marks another step in the country's decentralized electoral process. Meanwhile, Libya's government of national unity welcomed the municipal elections as a key step toward building a democratic state. President or Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibeh said the vote showed citizens' determination to shape their future. He voiced regret over what he called obstruction in some areas, warning it poses a real test for those responsible, and stressed that direct elections remain the only path to lasting stability.
I welcome the launch of the second round of municipal elections in 26 municipalities today. This is an important step toward building the democratic state we aspire to, and it shows citizens' awareness in shaping their own future. Obstructing elections in some municipalities and preventing citizens from voting is unacceptable and undermines confidence in future parliamentary and presidential polls. Direct elections remain our firm vision and only path to ending political division and overcoming the heavy transitional period our country has endured.
On a related development, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and his Egyptian counterpart Badr Abdelhadi discussed the situation in Libya during a phone call Saturday. The two reaffirmed support for a final settlement that protects Libya's sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity while boosting regional stability. They also reviewed preparations for the upcoming tripartite mechanism meeting of neighboring countries on Libya, which Algeria will host soon. Elsewhere in North Africa, human rights and anti-normalization groups in Morocco are asserting that Zionist intelligence involvement in the near-fatal injury of leftist activist Sidon, who has been in a coma since Saturday. At a Gaza Solidarity rally, Aziz Hannawi of the Moroccan Observatory Against Normalization pointed to unexplained bruises and a severe head injury as signs of foul play, vowing to uncover the truth behind what he called a suspicious attack.
وصديقنا وحبيبنا المناضل الكبير أسيدون سيون.
Our dear friend and committed activist Asidon Sion is currently bedridden in critical condition at a clinic following an incident that remains shrouded in mystery. He was found unconscious at his home, with bruises, signs of physical assault, and scratches on his body. We must all show solidarity by supporting our brothers Asidon's cause in the fight against ethnic cleansing, genocide, racist Zionism, and the infiltration of Zionist agents into our country.
To another major story, the Alaska summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin wrapped up without any breakthrough on Ukraine. Trump instead shifted the pressure onto President Zelensky, inviting him to Washington for talks aimed at pushing for peace. Yasin Urti has more.
In a moment loaded with symbolism and geopolitical weight, US President Donald Trump rolled out the red carpet for Russian President Vladimir Putin on American soil this week, marked by a handshake on the tarmac, a shared car ride and public applause. The strikingly warm reception sparked immediate diplomatic tremors across Europe.
We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We had an extremely productive meeting and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there.
The summit billed as a historic meeting between two global heavyweights, notably excluded European leaders, a move that many in Brussels, Paris, Berlin and London viewed as a deliberate snub after years of positioning themselves as key players in the Ukraine crisis. Europe suddenly found itself watching from the sidelines. The backlash was swift. In a joint statement, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Italian PM Giorgia Meloni vowed to ramp up pressure on Moscow with tougher sanctions and renewed economic measures.
In 2022, during my last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my former American colleague that we should not let this situation reach a point where it could lead to serious consequences, including military intervention. I said at the time that this was a serious mistake. Today, we hear President Trump declare that if he were president, there would be no war. I believe that would have been the case. I confirm this, because President Trump and I have established a solid, pragmatic and trusting relationship. And I have every reason to believe that by moving in this direction, we can end the conflict in Ukraine, and the sooner, the better.
The EU leaders also floated the idea of a Trump-Zelensky-Putin summit with EU backing. Macron's response appeared more restrained. He called on allies via X to keep up the pressure until peace is achieved. A message seen by many as lacking urgency and failing to outline concrete future steps. Yet the summit's optics tell a deeper story. Europe's influence is fading. Despite sanctions, Putin appears undeterred and now welcomed. No deal was struck, but the balance of power may already be shifting.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly considering giving Moscow privileged access to Alaska's rare earth minerals as part of a potential peace deal on Ukraine, according to The Telegraph. At his Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin, Trump is said to have dangled economic incentives, including East aviation sanctions, to draw Russia into talks. In a linked story, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Saturday he'll travel to Washington on Monday to discuss ending the war with President Donald Trump. The announcement came after a phone call in which Trump briefed him on his Alaska talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In Europe, still, European leaders on Saturday signaled readiness to help organize a summit bringing together U.S. President Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the war. In a joint statement, they vowed to keep up pressure on Moscow through sanctions to secure what they called a just and lasting peace, stressing that Russia cannot block Ukraine's path to joining the EU or the NATO. Back to Africa now. At least 31 civilians, including women and children, were killed Saturday when rapid support forces shelled the Abu Shuk camp in North Darfur. The Sudanese medical groups say another 13 were wounded in the attack on the besieged Al-Fashir area camp, making it one of the deadliest incidents yet in the region's worsening humanitarian crisis. Elsewhere in Africa, Mozambican President Daniel Chapo has vowed to deepen his country's partnership with China, highlighting economic ties in an interview with China Media Group. As the two nations mark 50 years of relations, Chapo outlined plans to boost cooperation in trade, culture, environmental protection, and sports, calling China a key strategic ally.
Esta visão do presidente Xi Jinping.
These are remarkable ideas. The Africa policy proposed by President Xi Jinping will have a positive impact on Africa's development for many years to come. China has a great leader, President Xi Jinping, who has always been deeply concerned about Africa and the development of Mozambique under President Xi's leadership. There is no doubt that our cooperation in agriculture, industry, tourism, mining, energy and infrastructure will continue to strengthen and produce more tangible results, benefiting the peoples of both countries.
Para os nossos dois países e os nossos dois povos.
In Asia now, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says New Delhi will firmly oppose any measures that hurt its agricultural sector after trade talks with the United States collapsed. He stressed India will not accept concessions affecting farmers, herders, or fishermen, calling the dispute with Washington a new chapter in global economic tensions.
Farmers, fishermen and cattle weavers of India are our top priorities. Modi will stand like a wall against any policy that threatens the interest of India's farmers, fishermen and cattle weavers. India will never compromise when it comes to protecting the interest of our farmers, cattle weavers and fishermen.
And finally, it's time to catch up on more international headlines and the news in brief. Here's Salman Nasib.
The UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported the recent violence in eastern DR Congo has killed around 50 civilians and displaced over 8,000 people. In its latest update, the organization warned of rising insecurity in Jugu, Ituri province, where clashes in July also left more than 30 injured. Somali authorities announced the killing of 11 Shabab militants, including a senior leader, and the destruction of their weapons and vehicles in central and southern Somalia. The operation was part of a planned military action carried out jointly by Somali intelligence forces and international partners. Pakistani authorities said on Saturday that at least 320 people were killed in the past 48 hours due to heavy rains in the north, raising the monsoon death toll since late June to over 600. Khyber province saw the highest number of casualties, with 307 deaths reported. Rescue teams, for their part, are still searching for bodies under the rubble. The Information Center of the police in Sistan and Balochistan province, southern eastern Iran, announced the death of an internal security officer during a clash with armed individuals in the city of Iranshahr. In a statement, the center reported that a patrol from the internal security forces engaged in a firefight with individuals it described as armed men disturbing public order and security, who fled after being wounded by Iranian police gunfire.
And that's all for tonight's news. For more updates, be sure to follow us on our social media pages and visit our website. Thanks for watching and good night.